Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. This is my first in-home interview where I have someone in my studio with me, which happens to be my guest room, laundry room, and just about everything room. But anyway, and office, and studio. So this is my sister, Devorah Leah, here with me, Devorah Leah Halbert, who has agreed to come on and share her personal experience of using the nurtured heart in her life. I am Devorah Leah's big sister, and I have watched her ever since I can remember growing up. And we actually went to high school together, and we lived together in different states at the same time. So I really have been in close proximity to really watch her and her journey. And I have to say that she's really amazing. And Devorah Leah is also autistic, and she has been using her experience as an autistic person and all the different pieces of her story, which I'm sure she'll share, in such important and powerful ways, helping many parents of autistic kids understand their kids better and know how to handle them better. She has an amazing workshop coming up that we'll talk about at the end here that she's giving to help parents deal with meltdowns. And she's helped me personally with my autistic son a ton. And just also even other autistic individuals, autistic adults, just bringing awareness, acceptance, understanding. And she's just an amazing resource. And so I'm excited that my audience is going to get to hear. And Devorah Leah is also available if you ever want to reach out and get some of that amazing insight for your own situation. We'll share her contact information at the end. But she's so brave. And to do this and to get on, and maybe she'll talk a little bit more about why it's so brave, but this is not the kind of thing that the typical autistic adult is running to do. So thank you so much for being here, Devorah Leah. I'm so proud of you. And really, what's more important is that I know you're very proud of yourself, and you've come so far. And so let's hear a little bit about it. So why don't you tell us? And Devorah Leah is a PhD student. She's working on her thesis, and she's going to use her research also to continue to help the autistic community with Nurtured Heart in there. She's a Nurtured Heart trainer. She's taken the Nurtured Heart training. I didn't say that. So that's all that. So Devorah Leah, why don't you go ahead and share with the audience a little bit about where you were in your life and what made you get into Nurtured Heart. Obviously, I was into it, and she saw that, but what made you pursue it personally to the level that you have?
Well, I was exposed to the Nurtured Heart approach thanks to you. And even though I didn't really know all that much about it, it was definitely something that I saw a lot of benefit in. And it was definitely something that I wanted to learn more about. So I was actually at your first workshop you ever did. I was very proud of you. That you did a great job. And so that was the 1 hour introduction. And then I did the 6 hour workshop. And I felt that while I understood a lot of the approach in theory, I found that I was having a really hard time actually applying it in my life, which is what motivated me to want to actually do the CTI.
So let's pause for a second. When you say implementing it into your life, what do you mean by that? As teacher, parent, self, like what?
With myself, I have always been a really intense person, and I feel things very deeply, and that was never something I ever learned to manage. I never really learned how to regulate my emotions. And when I was a single girl, that was never really an issue because I didn't have to be in a relationship with anyone. But once I got married, it really became an issue because I could see that I really needed to learn to regulate better because it was really impacting my marriage, it was affecting me, it was affecting my husband. And I realized that if I want things to get better, then I really learned how to do this. And I knew that Nurture Heart approach was, and because I knew so much about it at the time, I was like, I want to learn more about this.
Can you tell me what part of Nurtured Heart gave you that impression? Or our audience, tell our audience what part of Nurtured Heart gave you that impression that it would be good for that?
Because I really,
what piece of it spoke to you?
Because it was two things. First of all, I really loved the fact that it focused on the positive, and I also really appreciated the reset because the reset is something that it's neutral. It's not negative or positive. It's just that um, you know, energy is out of whack or something, and the reset just gives you that space to kind of get back into your heart and get back to who you are without any judgment about who you are as a person. And that's what I wanted for myself, because I was judged. I was being so, I knew that the voices in my head were being really mean to me. I was bullying myself, and I wanted to go into your heart approach, not just to manage my emotions, but also to change that, to become more accepting of and loving and kind to myself.
So that piece of being able to like see the good in yourself, and stop being so critical of yourself and having those bullying voices, but to actually be kind and loving to yourself and have loving voices for yourself really spoke to you.
Yeah, to give myself space to, be human. I didn't have to be perfect all the time, and that's okay, because that's part of being human.
So how did that go for you? Did you find that in your process of getting into Nurtured Heart? How did that affect you, and what have you seen change?
I think the biggest thing was, I think it was about halfway during the CTI, that week, that I had my first real self reset. That was a very powerful moment, because I realized I can do this. I am doing this. That I don't need to let my emotions rule me. That I can feel really big emotions, and I can have all of this energy, and I can not necessarily control it, but I can channel it, and I can react in healthier ways, both with myself and with other people. I didn't need to be afraid anymore.
Can you talk us through that a little bit, what that looked like, or what that experience was like for you?
Because I used to be that when I would get these really intense emotions, energy, I was overwhelmed, I was scared, and I didn't think that I was strong enough. And so I would let that out on other people, which mostly ended up being my husband, because he was the one who was there. And it was in this process where I just stopped and I just allowed it to be, and I breathed through it, and I went off like somewhere where I was by myself, and I was okay. I rode the storm, and I walked away from that realizing I am so much stronger than I ever thought I was. I can handle myself. I can handle this. It's not so big and scary anymore. It's not a monster in my closet. This is my life force. Like, I got this.
Wow. So it was almost the not allowing, or the shift in thinking that instead of it being scary and bad, that it's coming up and quickly needing to like make it go away, you actually were okay with it being there, and stayed with it.
Yeah.
And let it just happen, whatever it is, right? That energy storm. And in that, you had that firsthand experience of, actually, I could do this, and actually, it's not that scary, and actually, I'm okay, and I'm strong, and I'm stronger than I ever thought I was.
Yeah. It was a transformational moment for me, because a lot of the reason why I was leaking negativity was because I was afraid. And once I realized I didn't have to be afraid anymore, then it's kind of like the same thing how I used to have meltdowns. Meltdowns are explosions of energy. And once I learned what a meltdown is, why it happens, what triggers it, and how, and like just having that information, meltdowns almost completely disappeared from my life. And even if they do happen, they're nowhere near as intense as they used to be. I think it's more just having that knowledge that things may be overwhelming and things can seem scary and things can seem really, really big and intense. And that's okay, because I can handle this. And if I'm having trouble, and if I'm having a really hard time, then there are people that there's ways that I can get the support that I need in healthier ways than just lashing out at everybody.
Wow. And then, so you just said something really powerful in the second half. In the first half of what you said, and then, so there's this fear of, oh my gosh, this is so big, I can't handle it. But then you're shifting into, no, actually, it's, I'll be okay. I can ride this. And then you ride it. And then you get this evidence of, look at that. Oh my gosh, I was right. Like it was good that I trusted myself, because look, I actually can do this, which builds a deeper portfolio and a deeper inner wealth of, yes, I am strong enough for this, which then helps you trust yourself even more the next time, which then makes it not even scary at all, because you have all this evidence building up. It's kind of like we talk about self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. Whereas when you're afraid of the intensity and you're afraid of the meltdown, then it even comes a little bit, and it's not even the whole meltdown yet, but you just have this little bit of energy coming up. And you run and try to save it by throwing it everywhere, and then you have evidence that, look, I can't even handle a drop of intensity. Even a drop of intensity makes me lose it. And then you're shaming yourself and hating yourself for any level of energy you have, which obviously you have energy. And I'm sure that with all the sensory overload of being autistic, that affects you very often and very intensely, maybe more than a neurotypical person. But I think we all can relate to and understand the sense of having energy and that being overwhelming, or intensity and having that be overwhelming. So that's huge. And then you talked about also finding other resources and ways to get help besides for lashing out on people, which is a lot of, that takes a lot of like being in your body and being in your power and being alive and mindful and in control to even have that presence of mind to say, I'm needing help and getting it. Because what so often happens with the meltdown type of experience is this out of control feeling where there's no, forget about what's out there. There's no power. It's like a powerlessness. Like there's no ability to get help. Like it doesn't matter what you could do. And telling, right, you talk about this all the time, telling someone what they could do while they're having a meltdown is really not helpful, because actually they can't do anything.
And they may be screaming at themselves in their head saying, why aren't you doing that? You could be doing this right now. You could be doing that right now. Why aren't you doing that right now? It doesn't.
Yeah, they're even shaming themselves.
Exactly.
So how is it that you're able to have that presence of mind to handle the energy in a way of like, what else can I do? How do you, or how did that happen?
See, that just kind of happened on its own. That was part of the transformation. As I built up that belief that I'm strong enough, that I can handle this, that I can do this, it helped me be a lot more conscious of, more mindful. It was just a natural part of the process that I could feel a meltdown coming, or I can feel that energy building. And for me, it's kind of like, how do I diffuse this? Or not necessarily diffuse this, but how do I handle this energy in a way that I stay in control? And so when I'm in that space, I'm able to be like, what would help me right now? And sometimes that's me doing something with just within myself. And sometimes that's reaching out and being like, I'm really struggling right now. I really need some support.
So what's fascinating is that it sounds like the belief and trust that you will be able to get through it has given you the gift of a certain level of objectivity, even amongst the storm, where the storm's here, but there's a part of you that's still here. It's like your prefrontal cortex stays on, your lid is on, it hasn't flipped. You haven't gone completely into stress, into instinct, into fight, flight, freeze. You're still on. And you're able to then be like, okay, here's what's happening inside of me. I can still be that adult for this storm and be like, how can I help? Let's get an umbrella. Let's get indoors. It's a big storm. What can I do for me? The trust in yourself.
Because I've also learned that the storms will pass. That that if I just ride the waves, if I just allow it to be, or if I release that energy in healthy ways, it's over like that. You know, because the more if I fight it, the longer it lasts.
You've given me this really funny visual of somebody who is upset that it's raining or something because they want to do something outdoors. So they go out and they try like, like taking a bat or like something and like hitting all the raindrops back up to the sky. Like, stop raining. And then they're so exhausted by the time it stops raining because they're running around fighting with the storm the whole time that by the time the storm is over, they're just flat out on the ground, exhausted. Mm-hmm. They're not able to play their game or do whatever they wanted to do because the storm would have ended regardless of them knocking all those raindrops. Exactly. They could have just sat and gotten wet and enjoyed it or gone inside, but instead they're fighting with it and then they can't even do what they want to do because they're so busy. I guess you talked about, and maybe you can address this more, like the feelings of shame after the meltdown when you were resisting it and fighting it and it was exploding everywhere and on other people. The aftermath of that, even if the meltdown's over, like the aftermath of that, what did it used to look like, and what does it look like now that you're more in acceptance of it?
Right. So it used to look like that. So this is the way meltdowns would go. I would feel the tension building. I would feel overwhelmed, and so I would like kind of let that out on people, and then that would turn into I hate myself. I'm such a terrible person. And then once I got through that, then it was just like, I feel so ashamed. And that could cause what I call an emotional hangover, which could last a while until I kind of moved on and was able to get past it. But now when I'm able to get through that same energy, that same experience, but I get through it in a way that I keep my dignity and self-respect. I go out of that feeling so empowered of like, I did it. And I come out and I not only do I feel empowered, but I feel a lot of really positive feelings about myself. Like it really strengthens that positive perspective of myself, of how strong I am and how brave I am. And yeah.
So you're ready to go rock it even more, maybe. It's almost like you're
energized. Like I can take on the road. I can do anything.
Wow. So where before Nurture Cart, your meltdowns were almost creating this dysfunction where now you have this emotional hangover for days, maybe even.
Yeah.
Or weeks after, where you're just not yourself and you're not able to really get out there and do what you want to do.
And which could then lead to more meltdowns.
More meltdowns because you're right. Now it's not only not that, but actually there's this transfer. It's not only improvement, like we say, but it's actually this transformation where now a meltdown actually aids you in your sense of power and empowerment and strength in the world and makes you even get it more that you're able and worthy and totally able again to do anything, right? To handle anything, to handle it all.
It may not happen right away because sometimes I need time to process and relax. But yes.
So basically, you're still human and you haven't yet become like perfect. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I'll make note of that, everybody. She's still human. Okay. Thank you, because I like having you as my sister and I don't want you to become an alien or anything else. I want you to stay human. So I kind of want to go maybe into a little bit of darkness before coming back to light. I kind of want to talk about maybe how growing up without a diagnosis, because Verla actually did not have the right diagnosis as a kid. Nobody's fault. It just, she didn't get the proper diagnosis growing up. So without knowing,
actually misdiagnosed.
Yeah, she was misdiagnosed, exactly. So growing up in that, like as an autistic child without the proper diagnosis and just your life experience kind of being expected to go through life like everybody else, and you went to the typical schools and typical, everything, and everyone just wanted you to be like everyone because you just should be and all that. How that either, obviously I know the answer, but I'm just going to ask in a PC way, either aided or didn't aid or actually worsened that whole stigma that you're talking about of like feeling afraid of your feelings, feeling afraid of the intensity, And
Absolutely.
how what I'm hearing now, how nurtured heart and the method of nurtured heart or the beliefs of nurtured heart aided in or didn't aid in seeing it differently. So
Right.
maybe a little bit about your childhood. I think that what could really help people out there who are either parents of autistic people or adults who grew up like you, or even I don't know who's watching, but maybe young adults, or older kids, to help understand maybe what is helping and isn't helping, what isn't helping, what's creating this cycle of feeling so afraid.
I think so. For me, I've always known that I was different. This is something that I've known for as far back as I can remember. And so I was very sensitive of anything that made me feel different from anybody else. And
So let me just interrupt you for a second. So basically the foundation of that is like that it's not okay to be different also. I hear that because you felt different, but there was this that isn't acceptable. So anything that was made
that's the attitude that I was raised in, is if I want to be accepted and loved and a part of the family, then I need to figure out how to be
like everyone else, which was what everyone was trying to figure out, how to make you be like everyone else, because nobody understood why you were different. So there was this threat and danger about being different. That what I'm just adding that in.
Right, but also when I would make really innocent social mistakes, it was treated as it was my fault, as if I was doing it on purpose. So the messages that I heard growing up was that I'm different and so I'm wrong and I'm bad and there's something fundamentally wrong with me, and so automatically there's any part of me that makes me feel uncomfortable or different or out of control or anything like that is bad.
Right.
And something to be afraid of and get rid of, and because I need to be who I'm expected to be, who other people want or need me to be, rather than me being my authentic self.
Right. So the expectation is for you to be like everyone, and every time you're not, you are disappointing that expectation, versus the expectation being that you should be different. Exactly. Because you are. And really we all are on some level, but like you even have permission to be different because you have a diagnosis. So like you are, but instead of the expectation being like, yeah, you're going to do this differently, the expectation was you should be doing this the same. And so anytime that you felt different, that was a threat because you were not living up to that expectation.
Expectations that were completely unrealistic. I could have never lived up to them in the first place.
Right.
Which is why for most of my childhood, I actually completely numbed myself because life was too painful and scary. There were all these people around me, and I still can't. I can't really read body language or any of these other kind of things. I rely on energy. That's how I read people. That's how I'm able to do so well socially. But as a young kid who with zero social skills whatsoever, the world was scary. People were scary. And so I just kind of retreated into my head and just buried everything else.
Which is an interesting correlation to wanting energy to not come up in your adult life.
Right. So once I started the healing process, as part of that healing, all this energy came up in me because that energy had always been there. Once I started allowing myself to feel again, then automatically there was all this energy. And because I had never dealt with it, I hadn't even really known it existed. It was really scary because because it's almost like I went from 0 to 100. And it was just kind of like, what do I do with all this?
Can I ask what turned on that on switch? Like what made you want to stop numbing, or what made you, or did it happen that the energy just got too big and you couldn't numb it anymore? Like where did that?
I think it was when I became aware of my childhood and how how it was dysfunctional and how it wasn't my fault. Especially once I got my autism diagnosis, that was a major life changing. I say it's the best thing that ever happened to me because I realized that I'm not broken, I'm not defective, I'm just different. I think that, and that really I started giving myself permission to really show up as me. And that permission to allow myself to be me also gave permission for all of that energy that I had been suppressing my entire life.
Monsters in the closet. Uh-oh. All right. So that was a big uh-oh in the beginning.
Yeah. Major.
Yeah. And then what about, so now we have kind of an understanding of where that energy was bad and wrong and scary. What about Nurtured Heart gave you the guts or the sense or the permission to lean into maybe thinking that you'd be okay? Like, what was that shift? How did that happen?
Mostly with the reset, but also
it just happened.
Yeah. It's hard to kind of, because there's been a lot of transformation that's been happening in my life over the past 12 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be hard to go back and pinpoint exactly at what moment the shift happened. It's just kind of like, I don't know, this as I went on this process, this led to that and that led to that, and because I made this choice, it also influenced that. And so it's really hard to kind of be like, this is exactly how it happened.
But it sounds like even before it became practical in your own life, the methodology of Nurtured Heart, where we're refusing to allow energy to become negativity to become the enemy that we need to fix and change and get away, we're allowing it to be. And we're actually not only allowing it to be, but working to see the greatness in it and use it for greatness, harness it, own it, and make it purposeful, with the 3 stands. Yeah. And so that kind of is the foundation that then led you to take the CTI, which is the week-long intensive with Howard Glasser, the creative Nurtured Heart approach, that made this experiential, where you were actually giving yourself permission to try that in a meltdown. Yeah. And get through that meltdown in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now when the feelings come up, it's more like, hello, is that what it is? Or yeah,
it's more like, okay, it starts off as tension in my body. That's where it starts. Mm-hmm. Okay, it starts off as tension. Okay, I'm realizing that that there are times when there are some people that when they have really big feelings, they just stand there and they breathe through it and they're fine. I find for me that if I feel tension start coming, or if I feel that buildup, I think more of, for me, it's more about what do I do with this? I find that if I can channel that energy into some kind of movement, some kind of experience, some kind of stimulation, that really helps me to, I don't want to say get through it, because that's not the point. The point is not to just get over it and move on. It's more about taking control of it and using it in some way for something
productive.
Yeah, more productive. That more productive thing could be punching a pillow, but or running around my house. But I find that can, or putting on really loud music and singing my lungs out, that really helps too. It's more about being like, this is what I need in this moment to make this moment successful.
Yeah, so I actually hear all 3 stands in that. I hear the clarity of, oh no, this energy coming up is not negative. I'm not going to energize that this is like a problem or there's something wrong with me that I'm having all this energy. Actually, I'm supposed to be having all this energy. This energy is here for a reason. And the clarity of, well, that's stand 3, clarity of like, so then if this is what's supposed to happen and it's here for a reason, then what do I need?
Right.
I need to, what? I hear you say running around your house, singing music, singing really loud to music, punching the pillow. Like,
right.
what do I need that is going to help me get through this?
Right. So depending what the trigger was, because sometimes there is a definite trigger, there are times when it's like, okay, I need to use this energy for something, or it's about right now I need to take some time to really be with myself, because this energy is here to help me work through something. And it's about taking those lessons of, what is this trying to teach me right now?
So is that just thinking or sitting, journaling? Like, what does that look like for you?
Kind of all the above sometimes.
Yeah.
Not really the journaling part. Not really
just like
that kind of thing. But it could be, it could be, I find that, so for me, with the way that what I do with that is I'm very conscious of the things that I'm telling myself and my thinking. And because because that's what really, sometimes it's being aware of, like, sometimes these like negative thoughts come up, and it's about challenging them. And it's about reframing them to be like, okay, I could, let's say my husband does something that triggers me. I have two options. I can go in a negative spiral about how could he have done this to me and make it all about him, or I can shift it and make it more about, what do I do with this? How do I react to this? And how do I understand and perceive this? Because I can't change him, I can't control him, and I can't make him be whoever I want him to be, because I can't. The only person I have any control over is myself. So there are times when I need to stop and think and be like, why did that upset me? What does that mean? And how can I reframe that to show greatness in myself, and yes, in him too?
So is there, even if it's made up, but an example that you can give us of where something might be negative at first, but then you reframe it into something that shows greatness? Like, what greatness could it possibly show about you? And we can keep it to you, or you can bring in your husband if you'd like. But what is your, like, what would that look like, to take something that feels negative at first and then find the greatness in that?
It's like, there are times when I would be like, express something that I felt to be vulnerable, and like I wouldn't get the kind of response that I wanted. And this was something that would cause the thinking of, like, does he really love me, care about me? Because that felt really hurtful, felt like he wasn't really paying attention to me, he wasn't being supportive. And what I've come to realize is, he does that. I can sit here and find all the evidence about how he doesn't love and support me, or I could find all the ways that he does, and it may not be the way I expect, and it may not be the way I think I need it. But when I really am honest with myself and I really think about it, I'm like, he provides so much support and encouragement and love for me in so many ways. It may not be the way I originally thought about, but when I actually look at his actions through that perspective of, he does love me and I know he loves me, then I can see the greatness in that. And look what a great guy he is.
What you just did is modeled what we were saying before, just in a different scenario, where that trust, like we talked about, the trust for the meltdowns, the trust that I can get through this meltdown and that I can handle all this energy, made it to be that actually you feel empowered at the end. Like, see, look at me, look what I can do. I'm so strong. And you have all that greatness about yourself, that evidence that I am so capable and I'm so strong and I have such a big heart and I'm so good at this, The same thing, the trust that he loves you gave you the opening to then be like, and this is how. And then you have all of this, to not let the piece of trigger be a threat and a danger to the relationship.
Right.
Gives you the opportunity to, take care of yourself, do what you need to do.
This was something that also happened over time. At first, what I needed to do is, it was more about focusing on myself and being like, I need to take care of myself and I need to support myself. And then over time, I was, as I worked on that and that became easier for me, I was then able to be open to the possibility that maybe I'm just not seeing things the way they truly are. Maybe I'm seeing things through this lens of like, this is not how it should be.
Or maybe there's just another way to see it.
Yeah.
That's more in service of your relationship and in service of your connection.
Yeah.
Wow, this is really beautiful, Devorah Leah. I'm so glad that everyone's getting to see this. We're going to close up soon, but I'm thinking maybe something that would be useful for our audience is to hear more about, like, I almost like to take a little tour inside your head. Like when you say like changing the way you're talking to yourself about yourself, like, do you maybe have some mantras or things you say? Like, what does that sound like? What does the positive self-talk sound like? Maybe coming out of that meltdown, or maybe even in the meltdown and then coming out of the meltdown. Like, what are we saying? What are you saying to yourself now? Like, what does that sound like?
Well, it could be a lot of things.
Okay. Maybe a few.
So if I'm in the middle of a meltdown, that will usually be just like, I am doing this or I'm not doing that kind of a thing. There are a lot of affirmations that I will do of where I tell myself like this, I am blank, like fill in the blank, whatever feels appropriate in that moment.
Like I am strong, or I am brave, or
stuff like that. Or I approve of myself. That's another one, because that was something that was really hard for me. Like when I say I approve of myself or I love and accept myself exactly as I am, that is me saying that I'm okay. That's another one. I'm okay. These are big ones because it's saying that I'm fine just the way I am and that there's nothing wrong with me and that, I can approve and accept the things I love about myself and the things I maybe don't really love about myself, but I can still accept myself anyways.
Oh, you're so special, Devorah Leah. This is so beautiful. I'm so emotional. When we're done, I'm going to give you a really big hug. I want to give you one right now, but I'm going to respect our audience and keep going.
Okay.
So beautiful. And then after, what are some of the things to tell yourself?
Afterwards, I can kind of be like, so there are times when right after a meltdown, I'll kind of think about, let's say, a year or two ago, and I'll think about when I felt the same energy in the past, I would have done this and this and this, and I don't do those things anymore. Look how far I've come, and that I use that to kind of be just to appreciate just how much I've grown, and just to feel proud.
So you're focusing on your growth, and you're focusing on how far you've come.
Yeah.
And giving yourself that boost of inner wealth. Oh, that's so beautiful.
And like there are times that I'm able to actually say that out loud, and my husband goes, "Yeah, you really," and like, and like he energizes that, like, yeah, he's
seeing that growth too.
Really, yeah, exactly.
That's so amazing. Okay, we could talk forever. There's so much more I know Devorah Leah knows and has to share from her own experience and just her wisdom and insights. So tell us about this upcoming workshop, and we'll put whatever information there is in the notes of this show. I know that you might be watching this way after whenever this workshop happens, but Devorah Leah is not going anywhere, right? And so you can always call her and ask her to hire.
Well, I will be having a baby soon, so.
That is true, everybody. So she might already have her baby when you're listening to this. It depends when. Yeah, but either way, let's talk a little bit about what you offer, and what people can expect reaching out to you for now. And then that may change, obviously.
I think that the biggest thing that I want to do is I want to reframe autism. I want to reframe meltdowns. Because I think that there's a lot of stigma about it because people see it. People don't even realize that they're seeing it in a negative way, that they're energizing the negativity about it. They don't realize that.
It's that very thing that you're saying about you being scared of your own energy. Other people are scared of the energy. Like when my son cries, he cries really loud, and it's really loud, and that I have ears and I have a brain and I have a tolerance level. So
Right.
It's like, it's overwhelming to me, which makes me want it to stop for me.
Or people are like, I don't even know where this came from. I don't even understand what this is. I can't even begin to know how to deal with it, because you need to understand what something is before you can then be like, okay, this is the problem. This is how we respond to it. And so, because first of all, the question about meltdowns comes up all the time, and any connection to any, not even with autistic kids, just kids in general. This is something that comes up. So the first thing that I do is I differentiate between meltdowns and tantrums, because they are two completely different things. I think that my workshop is more about just giving the facts. This is a meltdown. This is what triggers it. This is why it happens.
So let's just tell everybody about what you offer so that they know. Don't give away too much of your workshop. They should come see it for themselves. It is amazing. I have seen it. So you offer, so what can someone reach out to you for? What offerings do you have?
So for me, my focus is on providing explanations for the why and how, as well as the what to do.
Yes.
Because I have learned that there are practical things that once you can understand your specific kid and why they are responding the way they are, then I could be like, okay, here's a list of general things that tend to work in the situation, so you can choose the ones that you think would work best.
So is that
for
like
your
one-on-one?
Family? So that could be, for my workshop, that could be one-on-one. This is something I feel really passionate about, and something that I really want to. I not like in a therapist way, but more like a consulting kind of way. Like if people have questions.
So if you have questions, you're free to call, email, text, what?
No, don't call me.
Don't call her.
Text or email.
Text or email Devorah Leah and are you open to having one-on-one conversations?
Yes.
So she's open to having one-on-one conversations, and she has this amazing workshop on the difference between meltdowns and tantrums and why they happen and how to deal with them, that she is giving publicly. Do we have a date? Not yet. Sort of. Okay, we're going to post when this thing is happening. It's going to be virtual, and you're going to be able to join publicly, but you can also reach out to her to book her privately one-on-one to do this workshop with you, or you can hire her to do it for your organization, for your staff.
Because I think the thing that really motivated me to want to do this is when our mother, she came to me one day, and because when I explained to her about what I wanted to do, she says, I wish that I could have had someone like you when you were a kid to help me understand you better, because I'm not here to fix any problems, and I'm not here to make anything better. I'm just here to help you understand why this is happening, because I've learned in my life that knowledge is power. And once you know the why, a lot of times these things either aren't not really problems anymore, or B, like the way to deal with it becomes a lot more like they can start making the connections on their own, and start thinking about, okay, if this is the case, how can I best respond? I don't know their kids, so I can't really say for sure what they should do and how they should respond to it, but I could be like, based on the context of what you're giving me, this is why I think it's happening.
So Devorah Leah is this amazing resource that can help you understand why things are happening from her own personal experience growing up as an autistic person, and having the experience she's had, and the incredible power of owning who she is fully and learning to love herself and accept herself. And she's just so amazing and strong. And so yes, information for Devorah Leah will be in the show notes. Do you want to just say your email address right now, so that if somebody doesn't want to look at the show notes, they can hear it?
Yeah. Well, my email is pretty easy. It's Devorah.Leah.Halpert@gmail.com. Basically my name.
Do you want to spell out how you spell Devorah and Leah and Halpert?
Okay. DEVORAH.LEAH.HALBERT
Amazing.
B as in Bob.
B as in Bob. All right. So that's Devorah Leah. Devorah Leah, thank you so much for joining us today. I love how official I'm making this. It's literally me and my sister sitting in my, I should show you all my laundry right behind this chair, sitting in my office, just having an amazing conversation that I know is going to be so powerful for so many people. You're amazing. You're so strong. You have just taken all the intensity and made it just make you even more beautiful. You are such an exemplary example of power of transformation. And I'm lucky to have you in my life, and everybody out there is lucky to hear from you. So
Thank
you for being so brave and vulnerable and showing up and sharing. And with that, I will see you next time.